Hi, yes, well, I am Liddan Jackson and I look after the Debenham project. People ask whether I run it, and the answer is no, I don't. I try and look after it. And quite a few years ago, I gave a presentation, and one of the questions from the audience was, what's it like trying to manage the Debenham project? I said, well, it's actually like having let the tiger out of the cage, and you're trying to steer it by hanging onto its tail. It has had a life, an evolution, and has been totally different from a designed project. And that's one of the critical things about community-based support projects is you can't just design them because they're all different, they come from different people, etc. And basically, you just want to get on and do them. So I'll start at the very beginning with a little bit of history, why it came about. A very small meeting of church elders, as it happens, meeting in February of 2009, and their job was really to look around the village and just to make sure that nobody was falling between the cracks. And if there was something anybody we were concerned about, then we drew it to the attention of the surgery or the doctor or whoever might be of help, or just, just visited or whatever. And at that meeting, somebody, and I can't remember who it was, there were only about 7 of us there, he said, now hang on, dementia is going to be a big problem for us. And we looked, and he said, it is not a national problem. It is a personal problem, and it is a community problem. Yes, it has a national dimension, but that national dimension is there to support how communities and people are themselves supported and respond to the issue of dementia in their lives. He also said, we don't really know at that stage how many people have dementia in our community, and likewise how many people are struggling to cope with it. We better find out. Anyway, the conversation continued, and they said, well, we don't know what to do. What can we do? But most of us had experience or personal knowledge. Comes with age, I'm afraid. There are very few people who are older than I won't tell you how old I am, but who are older than I, who haven't been touched by dementia. Virtually all of them have either been a carer or a close family member or a neighbour or whatever. So there's a lot of experience out there. And at that stage, it was just experience. It wasn't knowledge or anything, because the so-called Living Well with Dementia strategy, national strategy, was just on the point of being published. And of course, we didn't know anything about it anyway. We didn't know what to do, so we said, right, well, we'll do what seems sensible. We'll set up a meeting to try and help people become aware that this problem is around. And maybe out of that meeting, something will come. Some ideas, etc. A bit like what subsequently became Dementia Friends and Dementia-friendly communities. But our idea was, what can we do? So we set up the meeting in April. It wasn't a very pleasant night. I remember it well. We had a retired neurologist, consulting neurologist. We had a senior mental health social worker, and the senior practitioner of the GP practice, and Joe Muggins, whose experience was engineering and technology and things like this. But he had sort of done a bit of voluntary work at a mental health hospital. And the idea was we would talk about various aspects and then see where it went. Well, the surprising thing, shouldn't have been surprising. The surprising thing was that over 70 people turned up on that evening. And out of that meeting came a number of watch phrases, if you like. And the first was, get on and do something. Pay not the slightest bit of attention to what anybody else says you should do. Just get on and do it. Use your common sense. If it seems like a good idea, try it. If it works, it'll work well. If it doesn't, then, well, what have you lost? Put it on one side. Don't throw it away. Its time might come. Because it wouldn't have been a good idea if you hadn't, you wouldn't have thought of it, it hadn't been a good idea. So get on and do something. Try to avoid building up a structure and a committee and all of this sort of thing. Try to keep it simple. The second thing was focus. Focus on our community. And our community is Debenham and its surrounding villages, out to a distance of 4 miles. You might ask why 4 miles? Because in Suffolk, 4 miles is halfway between here and somewhere else. And I could debate the academic substance behind that as well, but it was just that. It's 4 miles between Debenham and here, and Debenham there, and Debenham so on. And the third thing was focus on supporting the family carer. Because the family carer bears the brunt. And if you can support the family carer, you're also supporting the person they care for. But also, by providing some support for the family, for the person who has the illness, you're also supporting the family carer. So we're not actually dividing the two at all, but we are saying, in order to succeed, any project, no matter how it's going to develop, has to have focus. And there were people who said, oh, but there are lots of lonely people, and there are lots of people with this, and so on and so forth. But we said, look, we've got to start somewhere. We can't solve the world. But it was an early recognition that as time went by, if it was successful, it would and should ultimately progress to support all those who are frail and elderly. Not just those with dementia, because dementia is only one of the ailments in this, what I call medical kleptomania. I've got medical kleptomania, and I see an illness over there, and I think I'll have a bit of that. And I'll have a bit of that, and the pill level rises, and the appointments at the hospital rise. But you know what I mean. So we said, well, what could we do? And at that particular meeting, over 20 people signed up and said, we don't know what to do, but tell us what to do, and we'll do it. And we set off, funding ourselves out of our back pocket, doing what we could, trying to make contacts with around the county, the NHS, charities, and so on. And we were able to launch the project in the October of that year, 2009. So we are within 4 days of being 6 years old officially. And the rest is history. At that public launch meeting, we had well over 150 people attended, and we had representation from all the statutory authorities, the charities, etc., speakers from all over. It looked like we were onto something good. But why were we onto something good? Because in every community, there is a massive amount of goodwill, especially from people who've been through it before. Past carers and present carers, and people who know other people, and people who just want to help. It's there, and you don't really have to ask for it, it just comes. Now we have over 110 volunteers on our lists, of which probably 60 are what we call regular. But we do have a policy in which we say volunteering for the Debenham project must not take over your life. It should be a part of it, and only a part of it. So even our regulars, we try to make sure that they don't do more than half a day a fortnight. And others maybe just use once in a while. A lot of people do a little is much more sustainable than a few people do a lot. My wife does complain about how much I do, though. Never mind. She's almost as bad. But it's just a few of us at that level. So we set that up, and now we provide a comprehensive range of support. Now, I'm not going to say that you could just implant the Debenham project in every community. It's taken 6 years to grow, evolve. It wasn't planned, it wasn't designed, it just evolved service by service. Oh, that's a good idea, we'll try it. Oh no, didn't work, well, lay it on one side. Oh yes, it did. Perhaps we can expand it a bit. So now we provide a carers club, fortnightly carers club, an info cafe, fortnightly, what we call come and meet each other, activities and social get-togethers, a FIG club, a chair-based exercise club, 4 lunch clubs. We have a series of small informal networks for transport, for what we call Debenham on call. That's getting in and cover in an emergency situation. A small group of self-employed professional carers that we can call on. So it goes. And the latest thing is a mindfulness and relaxation sessions on a fortnightly basis. It's amazing. And it's a joy. Now, don't let anybody say, volunteers, you put everything in and we're so proud of you. The joy of actually seeing what it can do. Now, coming to the carers, I will say, I've seen over the years how great a difference it can make to individuals. Yes, the numbers matter, but when you see what a difference it's made to a family, I'm thinking particularly, I only use this one example, a gentleman, he was 89 at the time, and very frail, physically, who was looking after his wife, who was slightly older, with mid to significantly serious stages of dementia, who was as strong as a horse. He was going downhill. I heard from him on a personal contact basis, word of mouth. We started to talk, and what happened? Well, it took 3 months for him to get to just come for a few minutes. But we had engineering in common, so we could chat over the phone. They're both deceased now, but it was a joy to see what a difference it made to their lives. And that's just one example. So what I suggest to everybody, you're all members of communities, look and see what can be done. You don't have to start where we did. You don't have to do actually everything we did. You have to start with one thing, a cafe or a peer group session, just so that carers and the people they care for they know that they've got locally people who they can turn to and who will come alongside them. People who understand what they're going through, and it will make a huge difference. And not only that, you'll get so much out of it. You'll get so much joy. So, for those who are carers around this area or any area, look out and see what's out there. Because there is stuff out there. There needs to be an awful lot more, but there are various groups, cafes, and support groups and information centres and so on. But unfortunately, at the moment, you really do have to look for them. So there you go. That's the Debenham project, and I hope that as time goes by, we will see a great growth in the way that communities support their own. Thank you.
Thank you.